Whoa, we're back for the 10th episode of Home Advantage. I am Sam Herring, joined today by the greatest mind in wrestling, Willie Saylor. How's it going, Willie?
It's going good, buddy. It's a lot of wrestling action lately, and as much action as there is on the mat, I'm also a big fan of stuff that happens off the mat. This is like prime commitment season and prime, you know,
Yeah.
both on the mat and on the mat. There's people committing to schools. There's who's number one. There's Super 32, and I don't know as good as Super 32 is. There's also Super 32 middle school, and I just keep getting more and more in love with the sport.
Yeah. Um, it's a big time for high school wrestling, especially right now with all the commits and then like who's number one, Super 32. I mean, it's dialed into high school wrestling right now, so it's pretty cool. So let's talk about you a little bit, real quick. Just ask how you got started in wrestling, how you got introduced to the sport. Obviously, you lived in Easton, grew up in Easton, so not too hard to get introduced to wrestling. But want to hear how.
Yeah, um, I I haven't even told many people about this. I mean, like you might be the first person I ever told about this on the record, but I don't know. I came home from kindergarten one day and said, "Dad, I want to wrestle. Dad, I want to wrestle." And he was like, "That's great. We're gonna have to probably wait a couple years. I'm very excited that you want to wrestle, but there's no wrestling until you get a little older." And I said, "No." I said, "No. They passed out a they passed out a piece of paper today and said who wants to sign up for wrestling." And frankly, I was 5 years old and I didn't even know what all went into wrestling, but it sounded cool and I wanted to do it. And my dad was a pretty decent wrestler, and um, and he was just excited that I wanted to do it. But at the time, like my dad graduated. I'm gonna date myself a little bit, and I'm gonna date my old man. But he graduated in 1972, and in 1972, they didn't have much less than a junior high program, and there was no youth wrestling. And so he thought I was a little crazy when I told him that I wanted to wrestle. And he gave him a piece of paper, and he followed up with it. And I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. Uh, I guess it really doesn't matter if I was good or bad or uh, otherwise. I was just passionate about it from Jump Street, and I just loved it. I love the sport with all my heart, and I've had an affair with it, I guess you'd say. Sometimes I loved it, sometimes I hated it, and after a while, when I after I hated it for a while, I came back, and ever since I've tried to do anything I can to elevate the profile of wrestling.
So you loved it immediately right out of the get go.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. I mean, um, so I was in a small program called Wilson. The program was called Wilson, and the um, the assistant coach of Nebraska right now is Brian Snyder, and he was in a program on the other side of town called St. Anthony's, and they were so much more advanced than us, and frankly, they were city kids, and they were tougher than us. And I remember going there, and the first match I ever wrestled, I got wrecked. and it was a wake up call. Even though I'm 5 years old, I know it was embarrassing. I knew it was embarrassing to get pinned, and I don't know. I just kept working hard and working hard, and um, we had a room at the time that was, and I'm telling you, Sam, I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but we had a room that was there was one level up here and one level down here. There was, it was a good room. It was a good room. It was like 2 full mats up here, and then you would walk down the steps, and there was 2 full mats down here. And like the novice guys were up here, and the varsity guys were down here. And one day they came up to me. One day the head coach of the youth program came upstairs and said, he yelled at the assistant coach and said, "Hey, Saylor, we're taking him downstairs." And so I went downstairs, and that was probably, I'm telling you, I did a lot of things that were pretty good moments for me that I'm proud of. But the day that I got called downstairs to join the varsity team in our youth program, like the ones, that was probably the moment that changed my life. Is that at that point, that's the point that I knew correlation. Work hard, make gains. And so I was very proud of that.
That's really cool. And so you ended up going to the same high school as Brian Snyder. Did y'all connect before then, or were you always kind of rivals up until high school?
So I ended up being in youth, and I'm not trying to brag or nothing because it's youth wrestling, I ended up being pretty good, like 5th grade to 8th grade. In our area, I was one of the best upcoming guys, and in 7th grade, the summer going to 7th grade, I went to a camp that was held by Jack Kubo. Do you know who Jack Kubo is?
I don't know him.
So Jack Kubo, he was a 3-time state champ from our high school, and the assistant coach when Jack Kubo was in high school was Barry Snyder, which was Brian Snyder's father.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Snyder's father was actually the head coach at Lafayette Division One, the Division One program, and it got canceled because of Title IX stuff. And so then he went to Easton, and he coached Jack Kubo, and Jack Kubo was a 3-time state champ. And then he went to East Stroudsburg, and he just dominated. He won 2 NCAA titles, Division One, and so at that time, I was in 7th, 8th grade.